On behalf of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell of St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, it is with great pleasure that I extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you. With utmost honor, privilege, and gratitude, I introduce to you Mr. Prashant Tandon, co-founder and CEO of Tata One MG. He's a seasoned entrepreneur who has also founded Hellcart and served as a senior associate at McKinsey and Company. Mr. Prashant has done his BTech at IIT Delhi and MBA from the prestigious Stanford University of Business. His endeavors and innovation towards healthcare and tech industry is an inspiration for various young entrepreneurs. We are extremely thankful to you, sir, for taking out time out of your busy schedule for a session with us today. On behalf of everyone at EDC, I extend my best wishes to all the participants for an insightful learning experience during this session. Before we hand over the floor to Mr. Prashant, we'll be having a short presentation from our sponsors from of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell.
With that out of the way, good afternoon, sir. So before we start with our set of questions, would you like to address our audience for 5-10 minutes and talk about how the journey has been so far for you?
First of all, Rishabh, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to speak with the community and all the students and whoever else is listening on this call. Um, I think my journey started uh, when India was changing very significantly and interestingly. And I think over the last 40-45 years, we've seen a few very significant changes. And every time there's a significant change in the way life happens, it throws up a lot of new aspirations and new opportunities. And right from, I think, the first big change while I was growing up was actually the advent of cable TV. And colored television and cable TV was a big revolution at that time. And uh, that changed the amount of information and access we got, which in the first phase, I think from right from independence to the mid 80s, it was or early 90s, it was actually a very different India than the India after cable TV. And then the next big revolution came with the mobile phone. And once that happened, and around the same time, internet happened, life changed very drastically. While all that was happening, India had also liberalized, the economy opened up. Um, and with suddenly a country that was uh, supply constrained, and also I think even the aspirations were constrained. From there, we moved to an open economy, and we saw opportunities just come at us at a very fast pace. And while growing up, that helped me set my aspirations that we could do a lot more. I could be a lot more than just be an engineer, just be a doctor, just be this, that. And stability and security were the mantras for the first phase of the country's growth that changed very drastically to having bigger aspirations. The first phase was about MNCs and large global organizations, and then the next phase was about startups and creating uh, enterprises on our own. And I think those are very important and interesting milestones. I think the third big, or rather the fourth big shift happened when the smartphone came. Mobile phone was one, but the smartphone where which brought internet onto the um, in the hands of people, and with that, with the way the price of data crashed along with geo in almost 2015 or so. I think what happened was we find ourselves in a world that is amazingly connected. There's no information in the world that is not accessible to us. So access to information is no longer the arbitrage on which careers or businesses or seniority or anything is built. Everyone has access to information. What can you do with the information? How can you process that? That has become the key differentiator. And now, as I speak with all of you here, I think we are on a cusp of a very, very big revolution that is driven by two, three very strong and important macro factors. One macro factor, of course, is India as a country, as an economy, is poised for continued very strong economic growth over the next 20, 30, 40 years. I think all estimates point towards the same thing, that this is India's time. Um, Whether we grow 6%, 7%, 8%, 10%, um, makes a huge difference, yes. But the fact is, we will continue growing and compound over a long period of time. And that means, depending on which estimate one finds comfort in, India would be anywhere between 30 to a 50 trillion economy by 2047, is what is expected. Today, we are a 3 to 4 trillion economy. So, if you look at it, almost uh, nine times over of the current economy is to be built. And that is when people like all of you are graduating to see um, uh, only 10% of that job is today in place, 90% is will be built. And that's a great space to be, a space of optimism, a space of growth, a space of macro support from a economic perspective. I think that's very, very good. The other um, big technology force and change happening is the way AI and data sciences are transforming the way life is happening. And what that does is, and I was a beneficiary of some of the technology advances, but what does technology do? Technology actually makes the younger workforce more relevant than the older workforce. So the new entrants into the workforce actually, so just I would say while I was entering the workforce, it was still a time where for to be a senior marketing person or to be a strong finance person or any space you pick, seniority meant spending time in the function and learning and letting the learnings compound with age. Um, then changes were so rapid that um, the equation changed so much quickly to, rather than what you have learned, to what how fast can you unlearn and how fast can you learn new things. And when I started the journey of health card, I had zero idea about anything, digital marketing, online commerce, nothing, zero background, zero understanding, no idea. Similarly, digital health as a space did not exist. um, Now from there, what so it's good fortune to be in a situation where you have the opportunity to create things that where you can actually be the subject matter expert on the topic within a few years, just because um, you learn faster, you learn better, and you apply your learnings in the practical world. So a lot of what we are learning today, a lot of what you guys are studying in college, there's that might not be very relevant very soon, but what will be very relevant is the process of learning. And I think if in the next phase of your career, that should be the single minded focus. Are you learning rapidly enough? And that's when you come into the workforce, that's why it's extremely important to work in areas that are areas that will see growth, but most important, working with people who can teach you how to learn and how to keep learning, keep moving, keep developing. So I congratulate everyone who's graduating at this point. World will be turbulent. There will be, I think we had it easier in many ways in the sense that life was a lot more linear. You do X, you get Y, and it's kind of straightforward. Now the option set has become much wider, but that also means navigating has become more complicated. So I would urge all of you to focus on a few key things. It does not matter which industry, which direction you guys take at this point. Important will be, are you learning? Are you building the core skill set to continuously learn all your life? And are you um, building your or understanding your own place in the economic construct that is getting created around us? So interesting times, and I wish everyone all the very best. Very happy to talk about any topic that you would like me to speak. So please go ahead.
That was a lovely introduction, sir. So keeping in mind what you said, I think I can personally relate to that because with the advent of firstly OpenAI and ChatGPT, we all are worried, okay, will we actually have the option to actually sit for jobs 2 years later, or will all of them be eaten up by AI? But more than that, I think there has been a significant focus on entrepreneurship. I mean, especially since your times, but now I think it's even more in the spotlight right now. Okay, let's become an entrepreneur. We'll have this amazing life. We'll do this, do that. But I think yesterday when we had our investor session for the startups, we spoke to some of them and they told us that okay, you guys have been portrayed that it's very glamorous, but it's not. It's a lot of struggle, it's a lot of hard work. So don't think that you can become an entrepreneur and you'll have a very, snazzy life to begin with. So sir, with that in mind, do you think that there has like this mentality has put into place a rat race, which is forced like actually forcing people to take this route which they might not be inclined towards, and is this a good tendency or is this a over optimism that is happening in the entire ecosystem right now?
I think optimism is required for disruption to happen. People have to try, believe that many more things can happen than actually will. Many of those will not work out, but the few that work out take the society forward. So I don't think optimism is a bad thing in that sense. Um, Entrepreneurship is a hard journey. It'll be a grueling journey for most. And as I said, the nature is that not everyone can succeed, but everyone can learn. That part is very important. And when you take the learnings, then you see it over a 30, 40-year-old career, then that is continued education at the end of it. And you learn in a job working with somebody, you learn on the job doing your own startup, you learn in many, many different settings. Um, I think the lens is important, or how you see the world. Uh, in an entrepreneurial journey, it is likely destined not to succeed at the get-go. One does have to be extremely lucky. One has to be tenacious. One has to have a lot of good things happen. Um, Everything has to work, but one thing you cannot take away from anyone is the learning, and that learning helps in the next journey. Maybe the second shot at entrepreneurship, or you take it into some corporate when you get into a regular job environment. It just makes you more effective over a period of time. So I think will there be jobs? Will there be good jobs? Will people create their? Don't be entrepreneurs just for the glamour of it, because it's not the optimum path to take. But if you feel that there is something worthy you want to devote your time and energy on, it totally is worth it in that sense, that because then the deeper you can go into something and learn and be an expert of some little thing, I think that is going to be hugely valuable in the phase that comes after.
Thank you so much, sir. I think that gave us all an idea of what we should be doing later. Over to Drishti.
So these days, work-life balance is something that everybody is aspiring to have. So, sir, what is your opinion on it? Do you think, as Narayan Murthy advocates, that young professionals should be prepared to work 70 hours work, as in the work time in a week? So, sir, what is your take on that? And do you think there should be a work-life balance, or the young people should focus on the work more these days for a better future where they can have a work-life balance at a later age?
So I think the I do believe there is a lot of merit in working intensively and hard and immersing yourself in something um, that makes you learn skills that become a part of you. So at least we have gone through those schools of learning where deep immersion over a slightly extended period of time has just shaped made us. What it does is it builds your natural muscle memory and reflexes to deal with intense situations. Having said that, I don't see work life balance and deep immersive work at odds with each other. I do believe there's always enough time if you only know, or if you only care enough to prioritize a little brutally at times, but you should know what is important to you. You should immerse yourself in work that makes you feel good. You should definitely have time for family, friends, relationships, sports, health, and all of that is not necessarily at odds with each other. And I'll tell you why, because I think life has to have its balance. And if work is a load, then you would not be able to do it 70 hours a week. You will be able to do it only if you see it as something that um, actually adds to your excitement and adds it's a in office is a social setting also. Office is a setting where you get to engage with people in uh, all working towards some goal or the other. You make friends, you spend time with them, you chat, you engage, you discuss, celebrate. There's a lot of stuff that happens, but um, if it is 70 hours of drudgery, then of course that'll not be probably the healthy way to go. If it is work that you enjoy, you will find that it's a part of fun. It's not a burden after all. But I do believe deep immersive experiences, irrespective of the time it takes, um, help quite a bit in actually understanding, appreciating, and truly enjoying that depth of work. Because superficial work actually wears me down more than intensive, real immersive work. So when you ask me, I would say hours frankly don't matter. Balance matters a lot, but balance does come when you actually enjoy your work. Even 30 hours or 40 hours of boring work will not have your life in balance. I think 70 hours of intensive work and then enjoying um, uh, uh, those 70 hours also have a lot of joy built in, and then enjoying the rest of the time appropriately. Probably I would do that.
Right, so I completely agree with what you said. That was a great response.
Okay. So, sir, since you were talking about work-life balance, aside from, leading your business and ensuring that it stays abreast of its competition, could you offer us some insight into your personal interests and activities that interest you? And do you have any hobbies that you enjoy, or could you describe what a typical weekend looks like for you?
I know, and that's what I have. I don't think I have a paucity of time. So, and with the connected devices, you can be at work and off work whenever you choose. So the flexibility has only been increasing. Now, what do? I have two kids, both of them small, 8 and 10. And I do enjoy my time with them. I drop them to their school bus daily, and evening I like to spend some time with them. So that itself is a fairly important part of my non-work stuff. And then what I do regularly for fun, started playing badminton fairly regularly. I do yoga very regularly. I think that's 2 to 3 days at least every week. Um, I have a very, very active and healthy friend circle and social life. So that also takes a decent part of my uh, time, and I do enjoy uh, that time well spent. So, and summer is coming, so swimming will get added back into the routine as well. So, I think between kids, family, friends, and sports would cover most of what I do. Do not have any artistic music painting kind of talents, so that doesn't that but the rest of the stuff it keeps me busy.
Seems like something that keeps you on the go and refreshed all the time. So that sounds great.
So, since most of us here are college students, so sir, I want to ask you that what are the skills and experiences that we should build on during our college life? And sir, what is your advice to all the college going students who aspire to become an entrepreneur?
All right. So to the first question, I think just make sure that the process of learning is very natural to you. So you understand when you need to learn, how do you collect information and how do you process information. Um, to do that in a suitable way, it's important to spend time in real world settings as much as possible. So whether it is internships, whether it is projects, whether it is just shadowing somebody at work, those are good things to look to do. Try and understand what being prepared for the workforce means. A lot of that is about the softer part of things. The hard skills, of course, you can learn on the job also, or you learn in classroom anyway. But I think just think more about the softer parts. If you're gearing to be an entrepreneur, um, I think the the thing that is extremely important as an entrepreneur is to um, to be able to the curiosity to take insane amount of feedback and deal with it. While fundamentally entrepreneurs are optimists, but to be a successful entrepreneur, you also have to accept the feedback that comes from the ecosystem. Not every idea will be accepted by and the world will keep telling you what it wants and what it does not, if only you're willing to listen. And so insane curiosity is the single most important trait for entrepreneur. And the second most important trait is then a relentless pursuit of what you believe. Um, Many times, one of these two very important ingredients get missed. There are a lot of entrepreneurs who are relentless, who keep going after something, even though it's not going to work, it's not working. And that's um, because they operate with a zone that it does not matter what the world says. I have to do what I have to do, and over a period of time could build frustration. But to build a company, you really need to make sure that you have an understanding of the ecosystem around you and what does your consumer, who are you solving it for, and does that person actually might have a different view of the solution, and can you bridge that gap with what you're doing. So intense curiosity is extremely, extremely important for everyone, actually, not just entrepreneurs. Even if you want to, as I said, I think the game is of learning fast and learn fast, be curious, unlearn even faster, relearn. And that's the success right now, because information is not the arbitrage. It's not you know something that the other person does not know is no longer the differentiator. And so it's more about being relevant to today's times.
Right, so I completely agree. So I think being curious is something that helps us going on a way, and it doesn't stop us from, I mean, it reduces the boredom of doing the work. So that is definitely going to be a takeaway from this session.
So, since you've been in this space for a very long time, first with Healthcard, now with 1MG, how do you think technology can revolutionize the accessibility and affordability of healthcare, especially in a country like India?
So I think we still have a long way to go, but the thing about a country as diverse and large as India is that access is still broken at multiple levels, and building physical access to a lot of uh, services of healthcare is going to take a lot of time and be very expensive. And may not be feasible also in many dimensions for a country like India. So technology has to play a role. First level role technology played was, I would say, just where the um, physical infrastructure could not reach digital infrastructure and internet could. So it was easier to build connectivity using a digital infrastructure than it is with a physical infrastructure. So that is part one. And that's the phase that I think most of the players, including us, have done a pretty good job. So now, more or less, healthcare services can, at least outpatient healthcare services, can be accessed in most parts of the country. Um, then there is the other part that has also happened is that the government has actually very refreshingly changed its or changed its approach towards healthcare. From being a provider of healthcare, it has moved to being now a payer of healthcare and an enabler of healthcare. So what's the difference? Earlier, government used to run government hospitals, and that's the way it would operate. Now, under Ayushman Bharat, government has become an insurance company where you can go into any infrastructure, public or private, and get it reimbursed through the government insurance. So that's a big change because suddenly the capacity of the private sector is also being used. Next phase is government becoming an enabler of easier healthcare. So UHI, which is United Health Interface, again under Ayushman Bharat, and interoperable medical records. All of those are very, very fundamental, foundational things happening as we speak. So now the once so technology in that sense is making healthcare lower cost, better access. Now the next phase of healthcare will actually be delivered or will actually be impacted massively by data sciences and AI. Um, Now, what is going to happen? What is technology's role going to be? Um, so once for a country like India, if you read any of those global healthcare stats and reports, you'll find that the doctor to patient ratio in India is very low. Too many people, too few doctors, this, that. Um, we'll probably never be able to have, or it'll take a lot of time before we can create so many doctors to have the ratio where it needs to be. But then what we can do better is to question whether that doctor to patient ratio, while maintaining quality, can actually materially be changed by technology. Which is, if a doctor has to spend 5 minutes with a patient, is there a model where the doctor can spend 2 minutes and see two and a half times the patients because the balance 3 minutes work is done by technology? Is that possible? How does that become possible? Is when you disaggregate the work that the doctor does and make sure the doctor focuses on the part that is truly important, where the skill of the doctor is required. Now, if you see the breakup of the 5 minutes, there's a significant amount of time of admin work, there's a time of data entry work, there's a time of data processing, then there's a time of um, the generating the output and then explaining the output. Now, the most important role of the doctor is in the last two, which is uh, validating that the output is correct and then explaining or counseling the patients. And unfortunately, by the time in India, most doctors don't find enough time to counsel the patients and comfort the patients because they're so busy. Um, but the first part of it, all of that can be supported by technology in many meaningful ways so that the doctor can get the context much sooner, much easier without the doctor necessarily spending that much time. So all of that is driven by technology models. The other part that is driven is, can you have data science models that make healthcare personalized, predictive, preventative, so that you can identify issues earlier rather than later. When a healthcare issue is identified at a late stage, the complexity and the cost burden of that issue is significantly higher. And when I say significantly, it's almost 80 to 90% of healthcare spend goes in complication, things reaching the complicated stage. Rest of it is all barely any spend and huge return. So, can technology identify the right time to intervene as early as possible so that that big spend 5 years, 10 years down the line does not happen? So, all of that is changing materially with data sciences happening. And how do you get those indicators? Your smartwatch, your the smart devices, IoT. These are all technology advancements that are happening. How was data captured earlier? Data was captured, your blood was taken, it was analyzed, report would come, that would be some data. Now, data from your watch is flowing real time into some system or the other. Your ECG can be flowing real time into some system or the other. And do that once data is available, then and you have an ability to understand and process that data better. The change is material, and that's what we are seeing in healthcare. So I see the next phase of healthcare actually the most interesting phase. So far, we've been building a more efficient plumbing, but now we'll create the new model. So that's where the next 5 to 10 years of healthcare and India, in that sense, has an opportunity to lead the formation of these new models and not necessarily follow what is already done in other countries. So that makes it a little more exciting for me.
So I think so you've given some of the people here a idea to what to work on in this space for the next 5, 10 years. And so with regards to improving the plumbing, I think I can thank you for doing that because my maternal grandparents they used to live in a remote city in South India. And whenever my Nanu wanted some medicines, he always used to call me, Rishabh, I need these medicines. And 1 mg was the app which I used to order those meds from. I still do it nowadays, but they're in Bangalore now, so it's more accessible. But huge thank you for improving the accessibility of medicines in India.
So, since it's such an honor and privilege to hear from you, so we would love to know the most valuable lessons that you have learned through your journey becoming an entrepreneur.
So I think the most valuable lesson is, I would say, to um, not get too swayed by either too much success or too much disappointments. I think just maintaining a balance, uh, calm demeanor through the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial journey. It's extremely important. Other very valuable journey is that investing in yourself and your health and well-being is extremely important because you're running a marathon. Burnout will happen if you don't take care of yourself, and if you're playing a long-term game, you need to make sure you are fit enough for the long term. And while in the early stages of entrepreneurship, one feels almost guilty that I'm not working. Uh, 70, 80, 100 hours a week and playing sport and all of that. But if you look at it from a very detached, logical lens, then some part of it is just investment to make the rest of the part more productive. And net, it's a much better outcome for everyone involved. So investing in yourself is very, very important. The third very important part, of course, is that most of what the magic that happens is not your doing. It's a lot of team players. So building your core team, people who come together, building the ecosystem, building the partners who um, many times go out of the way to create opportunity that you then benefit from. So being wary of that, and grateful about that, and at the end, your success, luck plays such a huge role. So being humble about the reality of what uh, uh, all contributed to the success of whatever you're working on. To me, these are very important learnings over the last now 14 years.
Right, sir. So I feel like detachment is like such a major part in terms of success. We should never let the success or the failure take a toll on our mind. So yes, sir, we completely agree with you.
So, since you've been a Stanford alum yourself, and you have your two little kids who might be growing up, and you'll be thinking about their education yourself, what role do you think Stanford played in your entrepreneurial journey, and how is it different from the Indian education system? Because I think it's a very important question for students like me, especially who are looking forward to maybe pursuing their MBA later in the next 2, 3 years. So it'll be a very important answer.
So Stanford was a great experience for me. It was my first. So when I went in 2005. Um, Entrepreneurship in India was in its infancy, and it is very well developed already in the Silicon Valley, and Stanford at the heart of that Silicon Valley ecosystem. So uh, when I went to Stanford, I think the two three standout things. One was you get to engage with the highest quality of global um, folks who have all accomplished quite a bit in life. So it's a it's a great it opens up your mind and builds perspective. You get to see so many different people in so many different settings from pretty much around the world, and people who've been successful doing very different things. And you see uh, your view of the world and what all happens in various parts and how opportunities get created. It just expands materially. The second part was entrepreneurship. Just the idea of entrepreneurship I never had before going to Stanford. For me, it was not on my consideration list. But seeing how people have created value, how people have created their own enterprises, and how that entire um, ecosystem thinks about creation. Um, it just helps you, or in some ways makes it almost your second nature to think about creation in whatever you are doing. And I think uh, and that was very important, of course, to as I moved thinking about what next I want to do in life. um, the third thing, of course, is that, and your question was how was it different from the Indian education system in that sense? Um, I think the emphasis, there's it's a I think rigor is there in both the settings, but the emphasis on um, focusing on what you want to learn and the ability to just so Stanford, at least the business school, has a great non-disclosure, so you don't take courses because they are easy or you can get a good grade in them. You take courses genuinely where you really want to learn. And to me it was very good that I was able to um, study a lot of things that I knew I was not going to get a good grade in. It's not going to be, but it will be a learning that I otherwise will not have had, and I think that's important for an education system to imbibe. Lastly, Stanford around that time only had moved to a much more integrated view of education, which is you could take courses across schools. So you maybe in business school, you can take course in a design school, you can take course in a law school, in an engineering school. Here we still have it much more straight-jacketed in that sense. So to me, it was great. I took courses in design school, and so meeting and working with different kinds of um, experts in different dimensions. Just a very interesting experience in that sense. And multicultural experience, global experience, all that stuff anyway helps. So that's the demographic benefit of being in a melting pot like Stanford. Indian education, unfortunately, we don't have too many people coming from other parts of the world. You have the sharpest and the most brilliant minds from India come together, and it's a great experience in itself, to be honest. But I think the global perspective adds a new dimension.
So as you yourself mentioned, and everybody also agrees that for the next at least 10, 15, 20 years, India is going to be the center city in the world, right? So would you recommend that people, if they want to go abroad, they should at least go abroad, get this experience and build their network, and then just come back if they want to and build their own companies here. But they should most definitely try to go to colleges like Stanford or colleges where they get a idea of this
I,
kind of
I think
experience.
I would not say anything is must, because see, every learning um, has some opportunity cost versus what else you could be doing with that time. So in today's world, having a global perspective and view is very helpful and necessary. For that, going to college is not necessarily the only channel. Now you could be working with companies that have roles outside. You could have other modes of engagement, short-term courses, this, that. It's important to have that as a part of your toolkit, but I don't think anything is critically necessary, because what the question always is that if not this, what else are you learning? And if a person is very clear that they want to live in India, build a startup in India, or build a company, or build a career in India, um, then there are different ways to get global exposure while doing that in India also. So I would not say there is and in today's world, the value of degree for the sake of degree is only going lower, and in tomorrow's world, it will be further lower. So it will be much more about what is the learning in your toolkit that you need. Now, if that is, as I said, global exposure, you'll find opportunities to do that while doing what you are doing. If it is about trying out certain, or there's a lot to learn everywhere. To be honest, you can go to any country of the world and spend 2 years, you'll come back with a lot of learning. And it is just that relative to what you could be learning in India versus what you could be learning in the US versus what you are learning in, say, Nigeria or whatever. It'll be different types of learnings, and its relevance to your life may be determined by your own circumstances and desires in life. So, uh, definitely, I would say we live in a globalized world. So, try to get some global exposure at some point um, since it seems to be an important part. But it's nothing like one definitely needs that. There's enough successful people who've never seen outside the shores of India, and they're doing very, very well and important work. So.
Thank you, sir. I think it gave a lot of us clarity about our future plans for education.
Moving on, so I would like to ask you that what are some of the common pitfalls that all young entrepreneurs face, and how can they navigate through these challenges easily?
I think a bunch of common pitfalls are that uh, many times the depends on the stage, frankly, but early stage entrepreneurs, I think one common pitfall is that they don't uh, um, trust people enough to build a strong team around them. They want to do everything themselves. And many times the uh, sudden spotlight and media attention or investor attention or this or that um, just becomes more important than it needs to be. And I think those are the things to watch out for especially early stage entrepreneurs as they deal with the sudden change in life. You need to, the biggest pitfall I would still say is that not seeking help. As I said earlier also, okay, there are entrepreneurship is designed to fail. There are 100 reasons why it will not work. So anything you can do to reduce the chance of failure, take every help you can get from anyone and everybody. And there's no um, harm in seeking support, help. There's that you're always whatever can reduce the risk of uh, your startup not working. So that's where a lot of people struggle, because they take it upon themselves ki I have to solve it myself, otherwise I am not worth it. So and they put that as a there are too many variables. One doesn't have to take it that personally or that uh, myopically. You have to have a broader view of life. The other thing I think early stage entrepreneurs also uh, common pitfall is that many times people don't have a good view of where to focus their energy on, because at the end of the day that's what's driving the startup. And the sooner you can get a sense of these are the controllable things and these are the things not in your control, and make sure you spend all your energy behind things that you can control and stop obsessing about things you cannot control. And people often, now entrepreneurs early stage, they do the opposite. All the energy, all the focus, all the happiness, disappointment is reserved for things that are not in their control or they can do nothing about. It's like competition got funded, somebody is going on massive advertising or discounting, or this, that. It's happened. It's regulator came with some policy, this, that. You can do, if you can do something about it, put your energy there. But if you can do nothing about it, just focus on what you can do, because that is the only thing that matters. And getting bogged down by things that are not in your control. So identify what is controllable, what is not controllable. Don't think whether it is good or bad. Just don't spend energy on what is not controllable for you. So balance your energy well. Those are the important things to do.
Right, sir. So the thing that you mentioned that sometimes young entrepreneurs, or I think anybody in general, we also as students, we put so much of pressure on ourselves because of which our health also goes for a toss sometimes, which eventually hampers our productivity only. So I think this is a very important thing to note.
So I think we're moving on to the final question for you for today. So that would be that looking back on your journey, is there a particular moment or decision that you consider pivotal in shaping your career? And with that, would you like to leave a like what message would you like to leave with our audience before we, leave?
So I think uh, uh, every important turn in the journey uh, built something useful for me. I think my first job, what was probably the most pivotal was interestingly my first experience, which had nothing to do with entrepreneurship, nothing to do with technology. Not, as I was with Unilever, I was running a soap factory operation in a place called Chiploon. Um, and what I learned on the factory shop floor, I think uh, that was some of the most important foundational lessons for me in leadership, in management, in self-awareness, and everything else. So I think to me that would be the pivotal part, the very foundational, where we had to deal with complex ambiguity and take decisions on the spot when you don't have all the knowledge or the information. And you learn how to be decisive, how to make judgments, how to read people, how to read situations. The factory shop floor teaches a lot. So that would be that. And I think from a message perspective, in my initial opening talk, I said, I'll just reiterate, it's a great time to get into the workforce, especially in a country like India, given the direction we are headed. So wish everyone all the very, very best.
Thank you so much, sir. I think all of us learned a lot from your session today. And with that in mind, thank you so much for coming. And we have Palak here from our team to give the final closing speech.
Thank you.
Right. As we conclude this insightful session, we are confident that the valuable insights shared today will benefit all our attendees in their future pursuits. Mr. Tandon has truly embodied the essence of life by inspiring us all to pursue our dreams while positively impacting others. On behalf of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell of St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, I sincerely thank Mr. Tandon for generously sharing his vast knowledge and experience. It was an absolute honor and privilege to host you here, sir. A special mention to our respected principal, Reverend Dr. Dominic Savio SJ, and Vice Principal, Reverend Dr. Joseph Kulandai SJ, and Reverend Dr. Peter Arokiam SJ. I would also like to give a special mention to our Professor Bertram de Silva for encouraging us to pursue and live up to the great Xaverian reputation. I also thank our faculty advisor, Dr. Arup Kumar Mitra, for his leading supervision and support at every step. We sincerely acknowledge our attendees for being patient and interactive, as well as for putting forth such compelling questions. Last but not the least, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who was present here today and overall a part of EAC 24, from our distinguished speakers, mentors, and investors to our dedicated team and our sponsors for making Entrepreneurship Awareness Camp successful. Your enthusiasm and insights have truly enriched all our discussions, setting the stage for many more future advancements. With this, we come to an end of EAC 24, and as we draw a close on this remarkable event, we hope that we carry its lessons, memories, and connections forward with us into the future. Once again, thank you all for tuning in with EDC. Have a pleasant day.
Thank you so much, sir.